All right, welcome to episode, I think 58 from Out from the Cube. I released one yesterday, which was my New Year's one. We talked for about an hour yesterday, and we kind of hit on closing 2018, starting 2019. And we have our weekly thing that we've been doing with Jayson Wells, and we have Jayson with us this morning. And this is our podcast, but it's also, we will distribute this out on YouTube as well. And we'll start, Jay, by saying, I guess, Happy New Year to you. It's January 3rd, early, 7:30, I believe, on Thursday, on January 3rd. But Happy New Year to you.
Back at you, man. Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah, so I yesterday in my podcast, I was talking more about instead of setting a year up and focusing on 12 months and 52 weeks, but to really try to chunk it up. And I chunk things up on a quarterly system. So I'm kind of focused on the 12 weeks. And what I said yesterday was kind of my commitment to the podcast, to creating content, to consuming content, and then kind of redistributing out what I learn and what I find valuable. And I didn't want to speak for you, but I did say yesterday, I was like, my hope would be is that I'm not going to commit Jayson to a year because I know he's busy, and I know that your career and the direction that your life is going will take off in the next, definitely in the next 52 weeks. But I said my hope is that this first quarter, Jay and I can at least get together, at least 12 times, which would be once a week. So I committed you to that. So after that,
I appreciate that.
I'll lock you into that. So we'll just kind of jump in. You have a hard stop in about 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and there's some things that I want to ask you, and I know direction that our conversation will go as we get going. But I want to start. You had an eventful New Year. I think I pinged you maybe 2 weeks ago over the holiday and wanted to record with you, and you were either at an airport or on your way to the Southwest. And that's where you spent your birthday, but is that also where you spent did you spend Christmas down there as well, or just your birthday?
No, we came back. So we were there from the 19th to the 23rd. So we were only there 4 days. We got there early night on the 19th and left out midday on the 23rd. So we actually spent Christmas here in St. Louis together, but it was a very eventful 4 days.
Okay. And you went to Phoenix, right?
Yeah. Yes,
now,
sir.
now, why do you like Phoenix? Have you been there before? Was there a reason why you and your girlfriend chose Phoenix?
Yeah, not. It is an interesting place to me. I spent 1 week there. I had a PGC session out at Arizona State, which is obviously right there in Tempe. My youngest niece lives out there with her family, so it gave me an opportunity to see some family. But it's just an area that I've been interested in. It's actually one of the cities that I've thought about potentially moving to here from St. Louis. So it was a little bit of a dive into the city, and just a couple opportunities, but nothing super specific.
Okay. Yeah, man, there's so many things that pop into my head when we get together, and it really does. Just you talking about Phoenix and what that pops into my head. Now, let me just, we don't have to go off on a tangent on this, but you said something years ago when we first started to get to know each other that I have told my kids repeatedly. One of the things that we have said on this podcast, the 2 things that change your life are the books you read and the people you meet, without question, right? And I believe that, and that's one reason why I'm super passionate about quote unquote networking and meeting people and trying to connect with people, and why I'm making a full-blown commitment to keep the TV off and open books. Like those are the main, and I've been hammering. I got up very early this morning, and usually Sports Center's on and Instagram's on the phone, but this morning a book was open and my notes were open. But what you said really took me, and I've said this to my kids, is that orange basketball. Gary Vee says this: what is the ROI on a piano for him? He was like 0. What's the ROI on a piano for Elton John? Billions, right? What is that basketball? What is the ROI on that basketball for Gary Vee? 0. What is the ROI on that for LeBron James? Billions, right? Mm-hmm. And that basketball has taken you all over the world. And so when you talk about Phoenix, I forgot that you do your PGC, and we talk about Australia and different places. You've been all over the world. But man, I've told that to my boys, like, hey, this basketball can take you places. This basketball will introduce you to people. This little basketball will build you confidence and life skills and all that. And I know that's a tangent on what we kind of talk about, but it's really not. I mean, whatever you do, it just so happens that basketball, man, it's taken you everywhere, right?
Without a doubt, that's part of the story. Actually, is I will hold up a basketball and tell them. I look back and it's almost unfair. The places that I've gone, the people that I've had the opportunity to meet, the things that I've had the opportunity to see, all because of that little brown ball.
Right.
Brown, orange, whatever, right. whatever color it is now. It's difficult to put into words because at the end of the day, I still consider myself to be a little boy from Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. And to know all of the places that I've gone and just opportunities, and that's what it is. And another one of the things that I specifically say in our PGC sessions is, because you get these people that speak about their experiences, and you get that feeling like, and one thing that I tell the parents immediately, we call it day one, or actually, on our day one meeting with our parents, we actually meet with the parents before the athletes. And one of the things that I tell them is, as I tell my story, as I tell my stories and experiences, it's never from a place of look where I've been. Mm-hmm. It's always from a place of see what I've done. And that to me is like, I'm not rubbing it in. Look, I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. If I can do it, you can do it too. I'm a little boy from 93rd and Union in Cleveland, Ohio, the not greatest part of the city, the not greatest part of the country, of the world. And,
right. Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to bring up with you, I'm into phrases and last year I lived on a phrase. The whole year I had it in my notes. I thought about it a lot, and it really impacted me and set the table for a great year. So last year my phrase, and again, I do quote Gary Vee a lot, but it was just being self-aware, just being more locked in last year being 44, turning 45, but as a 45-year-old, just being more locked in on who I am, what my game is, what I'm trying to do, not letting other noise in my head, all that sort of stuff, right? And so then now as the year ended and I started to really think about 2019 and trying to come up with a phrase or something I could cling to in 2019 to continue to improve myself, get myself further down the road and to accomplish more and achieve more and whatever it might be, right? So I did a podcast where I really talked about being more action oriented, being more asking more. I have this fear of the ask, right? Of what you want and what you want to be, and not being afraid to get after it and taking more action. And then the other one was kind of just being on more of an attack mode with those things, like just really attacking the day, attacking with action, and attacking with asks. Like, this is what I want. Like, if I want you on a podcast, I'm going to ask. If we want a client or if we want whatever, if I want something for my children, like, just ask. And I'm not saying that those are my phrases, but those are the 3 A's have been on kind of my mind. I think you are similar in that. And I think you had an experience in Arizona over the holiday that is kind of based on maybe your phrase, your word, your thought moving into 2019, right? And I could be totally wrong with that, but what's your phrase for the year?
So it's actually what you saw and what we're going to talk about is actually the culmination. It was the culmination of 2018. So it was the tail end of it instead of the front end of it. But it was jump. And my 2018 focus, and we'll dive more into the specifics of it, but my 2018 focus was the word jump. And it actually started in late 17 when I decided to step away from the organization that you and I were working with, and just embark on an journey that I had absolutely no idea where it was going to lead me. And but I knew that I was being driven by purpose. I knew that I was being driven by intention and emotion. And on my birthday, December 22nd, a few weeks ago in Phoenix, I culminated that word jump by jumping out of an airplane. Yeah. And, you know, even earlier, you know, a year ago to the day, but for sure 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I was always that guy that literally said, I'll never die jumping out of a plane because I'm never going to jump out of a plane.
Right.
And yeah, on my birthday a couple of weeks ago, I skydived. And, you know, it was a culmination of things that got me to that point. But that was my action item of saying, here's how I'm going to put my 2018 word and my 2018 focus into action. So I jumped.
So at what point did you consider that? Because I'm like you. I'm never doing that. I'm never bungee jumping. If it gets to be around 12 feet, my legs start shaking. Like, that's not happening. It would just at some point, I'm guessing you're the same. At some point, you said, wait a minute. That sounds like something that I should do.
Yeah. And it was never from a point of fun. Like, it was never from a point of, ooh, that'll be fun. Like, no, that's not fun. Like, why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? For me, it was literally that. It was a series of events that led up to saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to show how committed I am to this. And really the two things are, I saw Steve Harvey, who obviously now who hosts the Family Feud, and he's got his own talk show, and he's got again, like he's everywhere. Who was also from Cleveland, and he is one of my bucket list guys. My bucket list of people that I want to meet is relatively short. He is from Cleveland, and he is on my bucket list. He's just always been, even from when he obviously got into entertainment in the comedy world, and he's just always been someone that I've looked up to and just really respected. But after one of the tapings of the Family Feud, and I can send these personally to you if you want to see them, but after one of the recordings of the Family Feud, he was just talking to the audience. You know, it's a studio audience there, and he was talking to the audience, about jumping. And he just said different things about, you know, and again, nothing, just like we've talked about before, nothing was necessarily groundbreaking or earth shattering. It was his way of verbalizing the things that Gary says, the things that Ed Milet says, the things that John Gordon said. It was just his way of saying it. But he was just talking about, you know, being passionate about what you do, jumping into things that don't feel comfortable to you. And when you jump, certain things will happen. When you jump, you are going to skin yourself up and bruise yourself up because you hit the side of the mountain and you get these scrapes and scars. And he says the one thing that will happen is when you first jump, the parachute will not open. You know, that it's not designed to. It's not designed to open as soon as you jump. It's designed to open at a later point. But he also summed that up by saying, if you don't jump, the parachute will never open. And he basically referred to the parachute as your gift, as your talent, as your skill set, as your purpose, as those things that you are meant to do here. And the reason that most people never get to that point is because they never get to the point, they never get over the fear of actually jumping. And so that was the first one. And he actually wrote a book. You know, I'm good with all of this stuff. Where is it? Of course, I can't find it right this second. But he actually wrote a book called Jump, where he kind of takes that it was only like a 6-minute little clip. He took that 6-minute clip and turned it into a book. He talked about, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, he does the Miss Universe contest and he announced the wrong lady. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And he talked about how that happened. He talked about the whole, you know, just that experience. And so, yeah, so he wrote a book called Jump. And so that was the first one. And then the second one is Will Smith has become a guy that I have just like always liked, but he's become one that I'm like really pouring into now that he's into this space where he's creating this user generated content. And it was a video and he was talking about his first time skydiving. And he's like, you know, he's telling the story, almost chronologically telling the story about, you know, you're out drinking with your friends, like, hey, let's go skydiving tomorrow. Yeah, let's go skydiving. And he's like, you know, then you get back to your hotel room and you're like, oh, did I really say we were going skydiving? And he talks about this fear leading up to it, how the night before you can't sleep, the breakfast before you're not eating breakfast, the ride to the place. Like, he's talking about all this fear. And he's like, no, like, why were you scared in the bed the night before? There's nothing to be scared of. And he just talked about that experience, and two things really stood out to that. And again, I can send you this, but he said his moment was when they opened up the door of the plane. So you're at 10, 11,000 feet in the air, and they open up the door, and that was his moment of, oh, this is real.
This is real.
That was actually Marky, my lady. That was her moment as well, is when they opened up the door. That wasn't my moment, maybe because I saw this, but he talked about the quote that he said. He said, the point of maximum danger, you realize, is the point of minimal fear. The point of maximum danger is the point of minimal fear, which is like when you first fall out of the plane. That is the point of maximum danger, when you first fall out of the plane. And he said, you're in this bliss, is the word that he used. But you're in this bliss, and it's not fear. When you fall out of the plane, it is not fear. It's not. And then the other thing that he said right behind that, he said, what he realized are the most beautiful things in the world are on the other side of terror.
On the other side of what? Fear?
Terror.
Okay.
Fear, terror, whatever. But he used the word terror. He said the most beautiful things in the world are on the other side of terror. The most beautiful things that will happen in your life, or that you'll experience in your life, are on the other side of fear. And when you get up there, man, first off, you free fall for about 60 seconds, which is free fall at 120 miles per hour with wind and cold. And you are a little kid. You're a little kid. Because you can't stop smiling. It's not fear. You can't stop smiling. It is unbelievable to realize, like, I am actually flying. It's unbelievable to see the world at that. Like, we've all been on a plane. You have not been outside of the plane. It's a whole different experience to be outside of the plane at 10,000 feet. And yeah, man, it was those two statements about, you know, the point of maximum danger is the point of minimal fear, and the most beautiful things in the world are on the other side of fear or terror. Those two, I watched that video, and that was when I made the decision that I was going to skydive. And I knew my birthday is at the end of the year. I knew that was the way that I could culminate the year. And so from that point, I just started planning on skydiving on my birthday.
So if you had that fear leading up to it, hey, I'm never going to do this, you know, that's me. And I know you're not trying to convince me, but nobody ever would. Like that. That's just never going to happen, right? I don't care what my phrase of the year is. It's not going to happen. So what emotions or feelings or thoughts do you have about, like, what changed? Like, is that now, like, how did you enjoy that? If it was fear, I'm never going to do it. Now that you've done it and you've experienced all that, like, was that one of the best things you've done in your life? Was it the most thrilling, the most, what feelings do you have about that now?
It was, a little bit of all of those things that you said, but more than anything, it was action. It was me. And that was actually how I verbalized the word jump. How I verbalized my choice of jump was to jump out of fear and into faith. And not necessarily faith from a spiritual standpoint, but faith from a point of not letting my fears be the determining factor of my decision. And that's what we do. Yeah. That's what we do. We, in the business world, we don't jump because we're scared of failure. In our personal lives, we don't jump because we're scared of embarrassment or disappointment or rejection. Like, we just don't do it. We don't jump because of our comfort zone for whatever reason. And there's a plethora of reasons, but for whatever reason, we allow fear to dominate and dictate our thoughts. And for me, that's what it was more than anything is I'm not going to let this fear dictate my thoughts. And yeah, like there's certain things. I have no desire to bungee jump. I have no desire. Like I'm not this thrill seeker guy. I'm like, that was the one thing that I told myself that I could do it. I told myself that I would do it, and I knew what the fallout to that would be. So yeah, that was the decision.
Now, how long is that whole process from the time that you jump out of the plane, 60-second free fall, 10, 11,000 feet? How long before you're back on the ground?
So I would say in that 60 seconds, you probably go half of the way down, maybe even a little bit more. So you're going 5,000 or 6,000 feet, during that 60 seconds. And then the last of the whole thing is maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, because the last 8 or 9 minutes, once the chute opens, it goes from, because it's loud, like it's you're going 120 miles per hour. There's wind in your ears. You can't hear anything. And then as soon as the chute opens, it is complete serenity, super quiet. And you're just there, and you're just hanging, and you get to see God's, the universe's quilt. Again, we've all seen it from the inside of a plane, but you get to see it. And I went later in the afternoon, so the sun was starting to set. You got the mountains out there, you got all of this, and it was just there. And so, you got the total process from going out of the plane to getting back on the ground may have been 10, 11 minutes.
That's great, man. Well, congratulations, and and I'm glad you did it. And we have 30 minutes, if that, maybe 25. And there's a few things I want to get to. First, not to totally pivot off of that, but if jump was your late 2017 and all of 2018 phrase, word, and kind of motivation, what is 2019? What are you looking at for 2019?
Yeah.
So focused.
2019, I was leaning towards it. I was torn kind of between two words, and those two words were connect and enhance. And I landed on connect. And so let me go back, and this will play right into it. And so I read it. I read this book that I'm about to show you on New Year's Eve, which is why it's right here. So this is the book that got me started.
Okay.
And you're a John Gordon fan, so this is another John. John Gordon is one of the tri-authors to
right.
this.
So the people listening, the people listening on the podcast, it's called One Word Will Change. One word that will change your life. It's written, if you type in one word, John Gordon, it's right there. Okay.
And they actually said in the book, they wrote the book so you can read it in 49 minutes. It's a super quick read, less than 100 pages, and they kind of walk you through the process. But I came across that book in 2015, or actually late 2014, which is also when I was introduced to John Gordon, and it was just one of the books that I read. And so 2015 was the first year that I've never been a resolution guy. I've never been, that guy, that person. And I was like, oh, God, I like this. Like one word. Let's just focus on one word and have everything I do direct back to that one word. Well, in 2015, my first word was focus. 2016, it was execute. 2017, it was purpose. 2018 is jump, or was jump. And 2019 is now connect. So this is the 5th year that I've done it. And instead of having, we all know it, I don't go to the gym the first week of the first week of the year, because I know everybody that's got these resolutions is in there. Or if I do go, I go at 4:30 in the morning where nobody's in there. But to go to the gym the first week of the year is absurd to me, because you got all these people that have these resolutions. But Resolutions, they're just that. They're resolutions. They to me are wishes. Mm-hmm. And that is the difference between, to me, a wish and an action. Like I'm into verbs right now. I'm into verbs right now. And so I want to act on it. And so, yeah, man, I read this book, and that was when I started the one word, and it has been unbelievable for me. Unbelievable.
So how do you leverage that word this year? Like, what would be some things with connect or enhance, or just connect?
Yeah. So yeah.
And I'm not going to speak about how I kept. It's kind of like what you teach is what you emphasize, right? If you can do anything in teaching and coaching, whatever it is, it's what you emphasize on a daily basis. Bam, bam. Like, it's always in your face, to where kids or the groups or teams or whomever is just kind of sick of that. So I always kind of kept the being self-aware, in front of me, like every day. Yeah. So how do you go about that over 52 weeks, 365, to keep the connect in front of you and making sure you're living that word throughout the year?
So the details behind connect lie with me behind relationship and how I approach relationships. And so the connect first is going to be, and we've talked about this kind of with the content that I'm developing. So the connection first is a connection with myself, knowing who I am, knowing how to bring my most authentic self to any situation, knowing self-awareness, knowing myself enough to say, here's who I am, here's what I bring, and not here's who I am, like here's who I am, take it or leave it. Here's who I am at this point. Mm-hmm. Walking in knowing that I have a growth mindset and an abundance mindset of wanting to continue to learn and grow and develop. But here's my most authentic self. I know my most authentic self, and now I have the opportunity to present my most authentic self. Mm-hmm. Self-awareness. Now that you have received Jayson's most authentic self, you now can make your judgments, I guess, decisions to say, okay, I like Jayson's most authentic self. I'm going to receive Jayson's most authentic self. And 9 times out of 10, when you're receiving someone's most authentic self, it gives that person the freedom and the opportunity to also give their most authentic self. So now that you're receiving the most authentic version of Jayson, it makes you a little bit more, and this is all vulnerability right here. All vulnerability.
Right.
Like I have to be vulnerable enough to give you my most authentic self. But when you receive the most authentic Jayson, it also gives you some vulnerability to say, okay, well, I feel more comfortable giving Jayson my most authentic version of George. And now that we've connected on an authentic level, now we can move on and grow our relationship or grow our friendship or grow, whatever it is. And so, it's knowing who I am, being connected to myself, and then how I very intentionally connect to every relationship. And this isn't saying we got to sit down and talk on a podcast for an hour. This could be the lady that I walk past on the street. Like, connection has nothing to do with time. It has nothing to do with time. Nothing. Like you can connect in how are you? How are you doing? If it's authentic, that's the way I believe. So yeah, it's just a focus on relationship.
So it is. So your focus on connecting. So when you said connect, I immediately thought how I would use that word and saying, networking and meeting people. And one of the phrases I've used, and I really like this, and I don't know if I've said this to you, and I think you'll like it. I either read it in a book or somebody told me or heard it on a podcast, but if you approach every relationship or the first time you meet somebody as this person is going to wind up being my quote unquote best friend.
Sure.
If you go in with that mindset, if I go, you know what, I just met Jayson, and I actually remember exactly where I was when I met you for the first time and started to kind of connect with you. And I think back about that, and I'm like, man, if I could go back and say, you know what, Jayson's going to wind up being my best friend. If I ever get married again, he's going to stand up in the wedding with me. And so if you have that mindset, right, and you sit there and go, okay, now that whole connection is completely different, right? It's just – so I started to think – when you said connect, I started to think about those things. Yeah. The reality is your mindset is, in order for me to connect, I'm going to focus more inward. I'm going to focus about me and being authentic and true to who I am. And then that will come. And then my connection, those experiences that I just kind of mentioned will just kind of happen, right? Yeah. It's more about you.
Yeah, everything starts with self. Everything starts with self. And gosh, man, I love these conversations because I feel like you mention it all the time. We just go off on so many different tangents, but it all starts with self. And that's one of the reasons that I believe we're in the situation we're in right now, because we have this misinterpreted version of what self means. Like we self has such a negative connotation in today's society that people avoid it. Personal development, self-development. I don't really want, I feel like some people shy away from that because they don't want to give off that persona of being selfish. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not self-aware, if I can't self-reflect, if I don't know self, then how can I ever give my most authentic self to someone else if I don't even know who that is? And so for me, you know how big I am with the word purpose, and you know, it's all about the why and all of that stuff. So for me, first off, purpose to me, the backbone of purpose is self-awareness. If you don't know who you are, then there's no way that you can know why you're here. There's no way. There's no way. Mm-hmm. And so again, I have to know who I am to know why I'm here. You know, even the connection thing, it still goes back to this. So now I'm into this point now where I'm not asking myself, why am I here, or what am I here to do? How I'm going to navigate purpose into connection is stop asking myself, why am I here? And so, or what am I here for? And start asking myself, who am I here for? So now it almost plays into kind of what you said. Because now you never know who. You never know who. Right. So it might be that lady that I walk past on the street. And if I don't connect with that lady on the street, then I have ultimately done her and therefore done the world a disservice because we didn't connect the way we were supposed to. And if you don't know who it is, you have no choice but to approach every situation.
Right. Yeah.
You have no choice.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's just continue to go down random tangents. Okay. So we're not going to get to this New Year resolution. So this is a mindset I used to have. And I wish I did this more. And now maybe with this new planner that I have that I really like, I'll get back into it. However you want to phrase it. And I've mentioned this on another podcast. I haven't mentioned it with you, but I believe this. If you want to use the word miracle or whatever it is, that's fine. That's the word I use. But I think at a minimum, 3 great things happen a day. And I kind of, in my mind, call them miracles. I think 3 at minimum, 3 amazing things. And what I used to do is write these things down. I used to write down either the next morning, when I'd reflect back on the previous day, I would say, what amazing things happened yesterday. So what that does is it gives me the mindset to, one, open my eyes for it. It's 8:10 in the morning on a Thursday. 3 amazing things are going to happen today. And one of them might be this conversation with you, right? And I could sit back and say, hey, Jay said this, and this is how it impacted me and all that. One, I'm going to spend the rest of my day with my eyes open, right? And ready for these great things to happen and ready to take advantage of them and all this sort of stuff. So when you kind of say that, and I think we just kind of go through life not really thinking great things are going to happen or not taking advantage when those things present themselves. And so kind of what you were just saying is just being open, being aware, being ready for those things, being, expecting those things to happen. Because listen, I could make the argument that meeting you 3 years ago in a gym at MICDS and having my kids do basketball with you and with us for a year and a half or whatever it is, that when I'm 54 or 55 and not 45, that the connection, the relationship, the things I've learned, maybe the things I've done for my kids because of our friendship and connection and conversation is incredibly impactful.
Sure.
Right. And it's that experience of meeting you, right, or being open to it, of getting more out of that connection, of, getting more out of each other, all that sort of stuff. And I think being ready for that. But I think that stuff happens for everybody that's listening. And it's 2019 and January 3rd of 2019. Those things are happening this year to all of us.
Yeah.
Those experience, but I'm just saying, not to everybody listening. I'm saying it to myself. Pardon the language, but that shit happens every day.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I have those experiences every day. And so my word of action and acting and attacking and whatever it might be, right, is to make sure that my eyes are open to those opportunities, those experiences, those relationships, those people that I'm meeting, and taking advantage of them so I can have the 2019 that I would like to have. But I'll tell you what, the phrase of the day, I think for you, for me, that I've taken from you already is not what I'm here for, but who I'm here for. I mean, I think that's big time, actually. That is a great phrase, because I think I spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm here for, what I'm supposed to be doing, instead of the other way around. And I know I'm all over the place with this, but my mind seems to be centered around really right now of being open to the opportunities, open to the people, open to the connections, to the lady walking down the street, and then who I'm here for. And I think of everybody that listens to this, the C-suites, the coaches, the people that are sitting in cubicles, that are running teams in the IT world or whatever it is. But if you have that mindset of who I'm here for, who am I here to impact, or who can I meet that I can learn something from and then go impact the people that I'm with. And I think those are great things to leverage in 2019 as we roll into it. I mean, I think that's big. And I know that's a tangent, but you just kind of caught me with that of just being more open about these opportunities on a daily basis.
Yeah, like you said, they happen.
They do.
They happen. Part of my acronym for purpose, the second P and the O are preparation and opportunity. And, I'm sure so many people have heard the quote is luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or whatever version of it that you've heard or seen or read. But preparation for me is the question that I ask as we go down this journey of purpose. The question that I ask when I'm talking about preparation is, are you prepared for any situation? Focus on any. Are you prepared for any situation? Well, the immediate thought is, well, how the heck can I be prepared for any situation? I don't know what's going to happen. So how can I be prepared for any situation? But how much that I study high performers and great people in the athletic world, in the business world, in the entertainment world. And as I study those people, the one thing that I notice is that they have a ridiculous attention to preparation. And what I found is when you have a ridiculous attention to preparation, you find yourself not only prepared for the thing or things that you're preparing for, that you anticipate happening, but you also find yourself prepared for the things that you don't anticipate happening.
Right.
So, I have a personal story that I tell about Ray Allen, and then I have a general story that I tell about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, you're old enough to know, no offense, but the rope-a-dope, the fight, the George Foreman fight where he did the rope-a-dope, that was an in-fight decision. That was an in-game decision. In the basketball world, especially during a 7-game series, we hear the commentators talk about the coach's ability to make in-game decisions, to make what can I do on the fly? Game plan isn't working. What can I do on the fly? The rope-a-dope was an in-fight decision. He went to his corner at the end of the first round and said, mission aborted. Because if we do what we plan to do, he's going to knock me out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay against these ropes. I'm going to protect myself. And as long as he doesn't land a haymaker or something crazy, I'm going to tire him out. And in the later rounds, I'm going to be able to beat him. Well, that was because his preparation leading up to it was so to a T that he was able to divert. He was able to abort that mission. Mm-hmm. So because he was so prepared, he was able to be prepared for what he didn't anticipate was going to happen. And then the O is opportunity. People talk, there's this phrase, opportunities come once in a lifetime. No, they don't. They come all the time. Mm. It's just oftentimes we're not prepared for them. And if you're not prepared for an opportunity, one of two things inevitably will happen. You either are not going to even see the opportunity because you're not prepared for it, or you're not going to know what to do with it because you're not prepared. Right. So when you're talking opportunities, like having your eyes open is one thing, but being prepared, because now you don't want to be that person that, okay, well, here's an opportunity, but what do I do with it? That's not a great place to be in. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously not a great place to not even realize that it's an opportunity. So, and opportunities come in different disguises. Opportunities that might not always come, with the lady walking down the street. Right. Now, opportunity may come in the form of a problem, which is why most people don't see them as opportunities. It's because they come disguised as issues, as problems, as obstacles, as hurdles. On one of the slides that I show is a cartoon of a gentleman, and he has this rock. So there's a guy and a rock. And in one of the slides, the guy has the rock on his back, and it's a problem. And on the other slide, the guy is standing on the rock, running on it like he's log rolling. So same situation, same person. Do you see it as a problem or do you see it as an opportunity? And so, everything you just said is right there. Like, these things happen to us, but so often we're not prepared, or we don't even notice it, that we don't know what to do with it.
Right. And so that's something we talked about we talked about in the last episode, that last episode being yesterday, is I'm driven by the fact that January 3rd, 2020 is going to happen. And if I have that mindset, it is going to happen. And it'd be great to be sitting here on January 3rd, 2020, having a conversation with you with a cup of coffee, right? Yep. It's going to happen. And I'm either going to be further down the road. I'm going to, be more locked in on who I am. And the phrase I used yesterday that I liked, and I've never heard it kind of phrased this way before, but in my profession, and probably most professions, people that listen, we get locked in on titles, jobs, pay structures, whatever it might be. And really kind of the phrase I used yesterday was just this shift in responsibility, right? I may not want sure, it would be great to have that title, that office, that pay grade, climbing the ladder rung, whatever it is. When I'm sitting around saying, you know what, this time next year, 1/3 of 2020, I just want to have that responsibility. I want to have that skill, that craft, that trait, so my boss feels comfortable that I can deliver on that responsibility, and just having more responsibility underneath me, right? And so I kind of think that, but that stuff is going to happen. So a year from now, I can either have more responsibility, an opportunity to provide more value, more impact to myself, to my customers, to my clients, to my company. But all that being said, if I set that table, I need to make sure my eyes are open to those opportunities in all of 2019, right? Yeah. And I think that mindset that you have of making sure my eyes are open to see them is one thing. And I think I've always kind of phrased it that way, but it's also having that mindset of, okay, there it is, and I know what to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to get into, a spiritual thing, but you don't have to though. So I saw this quote one time or statement, whatever. And it said, people always ask for cake, and people pray for a cake. God, let me have a cake. And then they get upset when they get flour, sugar, butter,
Right.
milk.
Right. That's pretty
Like,
good. I've actually never heard that before. I like that.
you know,
Right.
like,
I got to make it.
yeah, this isn't what I asked for. I didn't ask for a cake, but not realizing that what you were gifted was everything that you needed to give you what you wanted.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we don't see the individual breakdowns because and so it goes back to me of that phrase, trust the process, or enjoy the journey, or however you word that, like enjoying the process, the direction that I'm going now. I'm actually going to phrase one of my dialogues. I'm going to title it, "The Prize is the Process." Like, so many people they have their eyes focused on the prize, the prize, the prize, the prize, the prize. Well, the prize may never happen. Like, if I would have had my prize, if I would have had my eyes set on the prize of making it to the NBA, gosh, George, there's nothing I can do. I came up short. There's nothing I can do. There is nothing. I am a 42-year-old man who hasn't played basketball in over a year.
Right.
Like, so I'm short. But if I focus my eyes on the process of getting me to it, then I can look back and we can go back to how we started this conversation of how many different things that I've learned, experienced, and gone through because of that ball that had absolutely nothing to do with whether or not I ran up and down an NBA court or not. Like, the prize, the prize is the process.
Right. I think that's big, actually. For everybody listening, if we just think about that and you're sitting around and your objective in 2020 or 2024 is to have that office and have that admiration and have that pay and all that, and that's what you focus on. Hey, I'm going to do that, and that's who I am going to become. And you don't enjoy that. I know you hate this word. You don't enjoy that grind, that process, that development, right? Of 1 year, 2 years, 4 years of really enjoying that, because when you get to 2024 and the prize is different.
Absolutely.
Right? The prize is different. It is not what you expected. Maybe it's better. Maybe you fell short, but it's still the prize that you got, right? And being grateful for it, but also sitting back saying, look at all this other stuff I did. Look who I met. Look what I read. Look who I impacted. Look who I was able to become, look at how I developed. Look at the person I am, right? So these people that are everybody, not the people listening, but me, right? The responsibilities that I want to have 2019 or 2020 of January 3rd, man, I better enjoy June 12th of 2019. But again, I think in my mind, it circles back to those 3 opportunities every day, those 3 miracles every day, and enjoying that process and knowing those things are coming today, right? Yeah. And knowing and having that purpose of waking up at 4:30 saying, man, today, 3 great things at a minimum are going to happen so I can get to whatever responsibilities I want in January. So,
George, journal entry today. I'm showing you my journal. It's not complete yet for today. Yep. Journal entry for today. One of the phrases that I wrote to myself: who you are to be, you are now becoming. That was today before we got on the phone. Mm-hmm. Who you are to be, or what you are to be, you are now becoming. So whatever it is you think that you want, like, you are on that journey right now. Mm-hmm. Stop focusing on the end result. Like, I saw Shaka Smart, the coach of now Texas, University of Texas. He was the first person that I saw really start to dive into the difference between process goals and outcome goals.
Right.
Outcome goals are, I want to win the Big 12. I want to win the NCAA championship. I want to go to the Final Four. I want to be the player of the year. I want to be the CEO. I want to be the CMO. I want to be the CFO. Those are all outcome goals. Process goals are, we're going to be the hardest working team. We're going to be the best rebounding team. I'm going to be the first person in the office every morning. I'm going to be the hardest worker. Like those are process goals. Process goals are all dependent on me, because at the end of the day, it may not be up to you whether those outcome goals happen. I want to be the MVP. Well, that's based on other people's voting.
Yep.
That's not based on. But if I go out every night and I am the hardest worker, or I'm the best rebounder, I'm the hardest working player, I'm the best defender. Like those things are in my control. I'm in the best shape. I'm the best condition. Like those are in my control. So it's not worried about the outcome. It's worried about the process. So yeah, that like. Gosh, man, I love where these go because I know I'm sitting here talking about sports and
no, it's not sports. It really isn't, man. Because listen, I haven't played. Hey, you haven't played basketball in a year. I'm 45. I haven't played in like 25 years. Right? So I get a lot out of it. So, man, I do. I know you have to go. We have 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I know this is a long answer to a short question, but what are your resolutions? What are your goals? When you sat down and closed the book on 2018, you look at 2019, and I know you came up with the phrase of connecting and enhancement, but really the connect word. And you set the table for looking at 2019. What are your and I know you've already said this in this hour. But how do you view resolutions, and how do you view goals, and what's your checklist, and how do you kind of attack your connect goal for the year?
Yeah,
how do you approach it? You don't. Right.
I don't. So it's not a checklist. It's not a to-do list. It's not, I'm running down and marking them off as I do it. For me, much like I did for 2018 and jump, it is, how am I going to look back and say, these are the things that impacted my focus? My focus last year was jump. How did those things impact? Well, I left the basketball world outside of PGC. PGC is the only basketball that I do. That is a comfort zone thing. I've been a basketball player for almost every year of my life. I jumped out of a world of comfort and into a world that I didn't even know, the speaking and facilitating and coaching world, business coaching world, or personal coaching world. I didn't know anything about that, so I jumped. I jumped because as I look back after my divorce, I look back and the things that I said that I wanted in a relationship I wasn't acting on those things. I wasn't acting on those things for myself. So I jumped into a world of, like, George, man, falling in love is the ultimate vulnerability. Mm-hmm. It is the ultimate vulnerability. And so I jumped and I stopped being concerned about what the other side of love looked like or what I thought it looked like. And I just jumped. And now I'm madly in love with a young lady who's 12 years younger than me, who has never been married and doesn't have kids. And those were all the obstacles that I put on myself in my reasoning behind even approaching her. Oh, well, I'm so much older. Oh, I've been married. Oh, I have kids. How is she going to take that? Like, those were all the things that I told myself. And I jumped. And I'm in a place that, gosh, I don't even feel right saying this, but the way that I feel about her, I don't know if I've ever been in love. Because for her, like, this place that I'm in now is 100% about her. Like, she's not been feeling great physically for the last couple of days, and I have not been feeling great for the last couple of days. Not physically, but for her. Knowing that I can only do so much to, like, so anyway, I ain't gonna turn this into a love story.
No,
but,
that's good.
it's part of the. So I look back and I saw all of those things that I did to jump out of fear and into faith. To John Gordon says this in one of his books. Fear and faith have more in common than just starting with the letter F. And I wrote this in that post, in my post on Instagram. I wrote this in my post. Fear and faith have more than just starting with the letter F. Fear and faith both have the uncertainty or the unknown of the future. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And so the difference between fear and faith, fear is focused on the positive outcome. Faith is focused on the positive outcome, and fear is focused on the negative outcome. And if I have a choice, if I don't know what's going to happen, why in the world would I choose to focus on the negative if I don't know?
Right.
That goes back to simple but not easy.
Right. And I think a lot of us that if we're sitting, listen, if it's January 3rd, 2019, and over the next 52 weeks, the responsibilities that we want to have, the person that we would like to become, I bet it's an 80-20 thing. I bet you this is me. This is me talking to me.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that.
I think we're sitting around a large quarter.
Like 90-10.
90-10. 90% of us are sitting around and not taking the action, not asking, and not attacking our year, because 90, if not more, of us are sitting around with fear of things, of the negativity, of the fear of, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I don't have the resources, I don't have the money, somebody's going to laugh at me. I should just stay where I'm at and keep quiet and work in the factory and punch my card every day. Then there's the other people that are going to have faith. You know what? I am good enough. I am smart enough. And the only voice in my head is my voice, and I can do it. And the people that are going to criticize me or critique me, in my mind, are the people that have already quit on their dreams or feel they can't do it. And I'm just going to continue to move forward, and I will be that person. Right.
And George, you know who those people are. You know who those people are. And
that 10%.
As you're talking about it, I don't even know if it's 10.
I think you're probably right. I think you're right.
Those people are the Gary V's of the world, the Ed Milet's of the world, the Will Smiths of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the Kobe Bryant's of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world, those people that all of us normal people look at and say, look at how great they are, look at how awesome they are, and all they've done is say, I'm going to focus on the things that are going to make me happy. It's not selfish. That is not selfish.
Right.
That is not, because when you're ultimately giving yourself, when you're giving your best self, the kids have this phrase now, I'm living my best life. Why wouldn't you live your best life? It's the only life you live. Why wouldn't you make it your best?
Right.
And those are those people. And so, to answer your original question, how I'm going to do Connect for this year is going to be focused on intentionally knowing that every interaction is going to be intentional. And again, it's not long, but it's going to be, I am going to see people for who they are, where they are. If it's the homeless guy on the street, I'm not going to not make eye contact with him like 90% of us do, because once you make eye contact, he's going to ask. I'm not going to do that. If I don't have anything to give, I'm simply going to say I don't have anything to give and mean it. Not that, brush off like we do. And I'm going to see him as a person. I'm going to see the custodian as a person. I'm going to see, if I meet a senator or some politician, I'm going to treat everybody as if they're someone who they are, where they are. So that's going to be how I focus on Connect.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you have yours figured out for 20. I'm 3 days in and still trying to figure this out. So I've got 3 phrases. Yeah, well, I've got 3 phrases. I got 3 words, and I'm trying to figure out how to leverage them and make sure that it's a focus of my daily routine. And I did write down daily routines, and that is something that I'm working on. And every day I work on making sure that I'm interested in your daily routines. That's why I bring that up. It's 8:34. I know you got to get out. And listen, I appreciate your time. We'll do this next week sometime. Listen, real quick, everybody that's listening. If in other episodes where I'm not with Jayson, I have really pumped up Jayson, what he means to me, who he is, and his website and all that. And I know, Jayson, you don't listen to all our episodes when it's just me, but I do rave about you and do want people to reach out to you. You have jasonwells.com is up now, our podcast you put up there, but it's also a contact place for you where you can be brought in to facilitate and do workshops and hit on, and you're speaking with big organizations outside of the Midwest and the St. Louis region. And I know that those things will take off for you in 2019. Also, I did read this morning on Instagram that I believe in 6 days, Alan Stein's book, Raise Your Game, comes out. I've already pre-ordered it. So I would encourage everybody to get that book as he's helped us out with our podcast before. So I got you laughing.
I'm sorry. I'm not because he wrote me a text message. So I'm always messing with him. He uses the word unequivocally. He says it all the time, all the time. And so in every text message exchange that we have, I find a way to throw that word into it, and we text it over the holidays. And he is a character, boy. He is funny.
Well, his book's coming out, Raise Your Game. I'd encourage everybody to get that to show support for him and what he's doing. And that's really it. But hit Jayson Wells up at jasonwells.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. And, Jayson, I appreciate your time, and we'll get this going again next week.
Awesome. Hey, let me throw this in, George.
Yep.
If for some reason, because we're figuring out some back-end details, if for some reason jasonwells.com isn't working, the other link is jwpurpose.com. So they both link to the same place, but I think we've been having some Mac issues with jasonwells.com. So if for some reason it's not working, jwpurpose.com will definitely get
And just the letter J, right? Not spelled
just
out.
Just the letter J.
Letter J, letter W.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And purpose.com.
jwpurpose.com.
Yep.
All right, with that, Jayson, we will talk next week. I appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the day, man.
Thanks, George. You too, man.